report. Currently, funds that are put into the Ferry Capital Fund are divided by route and by division, and funds cannot be used to replace marine vessels without just using the money that's in an individual account setup. This will actually allow pooling of resources within the fund to replace vessels in the future, so we'll allow greater flexibility for the ferry division. That's the final provision I have. Moving back to Sean to go over rail provisions. This will actually allow pooling of resources within the fund to
Page 24 is a provision that follows the reinstatement of the dividend of the North Carolina Railroad. As you can see, the first section states that the dividend should be deposited in the freight rail crossing safety improvement. The dividend's equivalent to 25% of the company's income from the previous year's trackage rights agreement it holds with Norfolk Southern. Subsection B discusses strengthening some oversight that the General Assembly would have over the North Carolina Railroad. This would ensure that the appropriations, House appropriations, Senate appropriations, as well as joint oversight, the state auditor and fiscal research receive the annual report that is currently being submitted. Currently, that's just going to GovOps. Turning the page onto page 25, similar to the annual report, the North Carolina Railroad is required to provide an enhanced annual report that has greater detail in it regarding financials as well as compensation and other such elements. This ensures that that report gets extended to the same bodies I listed before. Again, just broader oversight in the operations of the North Carolina Railroad. Sub B under there requires that the North Carolina Railroad, upon the request of the state auditor or fiscal research, submit information as requested. And then sub D down below ensures that any state railroad company be subject to audit and investigation by the state auditor. That moves us on to page 26. This is a provision that authorizes the Board of Transportation to set fees. If you recall, when we were in here during joint appropriations, we provided a number of presentations, one of which was a day we talked about various reports. This provision essentially enables the report on fee setting to be implemented by the Board of Transportation. This allows the board to set fees listed under A1 through 15. Important to note, sub B under section A ensures that the board must conduct public hearing as based upon the recommendations from the department to get feedback from the public on these fees, and that the board may not delegate any of the authority to set fees to any other entity. Also important, I think, to mention in this provision is it does not require the board to set any of these fees. This is a permissive provision, and there is no by date that any of these have to be completed by. This just gives the board the authority to do so. Also important, I think, to mention page number 28. This is a provision that runs parallel to House Bill 652. This makes modifications to the department's unit-based pricing report that's required under 136.18.5. Currently, the unit-based pricing report requires the department to report on any sort of operational activities that exceed a unit-based price. And when that unit-based price is exceeded, it triggers a reporting requirement. The issue with this current reporting structure is the unit cost was all base year 2015. And so we're 10 years after that. Virtually everything the department is doing due to inflation and other cost pressures exceeds the unit-based cost price. And so it created kind of an undue burden of constantly reporting on this when it wasn't necessarily attributable to the operations. And so what this does is it resets the base year to be based upon a rolling average of the 3 years prior for each activity. And that is resurfacing, building roads, that sort of thing. So any activities that are conducted by maintenance at the division level. And then finally, on page 29, this is a provision that directs the department to use up to $1 million of the funds appropriated in this act to purchase what are referred to as dynamic speed display signs to be used in highway work zones. These would be portable, so they can be moved around to work zones around the state. These are the signs that tell you when you're exceeding or blink when you're exceeding a posted speed limit. Mr. Chairman, committee, this concludes our presentation of the committee report and provisions, and we'll take questions at your direction.
Thanks, Sean and Aaron. These guys have logged a lot of hours along with our bill drafting support team here. At this time, is there anybody who would like to be in the queue? Gotcha. Or questions for staff? Thanks, Sean and Aaron. These guys have logged a lot of hours along with our bill drafting support team here. At this time, is there anybody who would like to be in the queue? Got these three. Anybody on the side? Anybody else? All right, Chairman Otto. It's a question for, assuming for Sean.
This is for the staff, yeah, Sean. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I noticed that, or it seems, I'm a little confused. There was provision in both of the budgets, Senate and House, that gives the department or DMV direction to automate the registration and so forth, which they can access now just through the license plate number. So, did that come out in the upper chambers?
It is in the Senate budget. It is not in the House budget.
Okay, thank you. Registration and so forth, which they can access.
He's out. Representative Adams.
Did that come out?
Yes. Could you help me locate the cost of the operation of the state signalization system? And how many signals are in the traffic signalization system in the state?
Representative Adams.
Yes.
Sir, Signals is not a standalone budget fund, so that I can't point you directly to that in the committee report. I'm happy to follow up and get you that data on the cost as well as the number of signals across the state.
Well, it would seem to me that that should be a line item. I would think that's a fairly extensive system.
I can't point you directly
That-
to that,
But it's not. So,
Response to that.
follow up
Sure.
and get you that.
My understanding from my division, and we pushed a lot of money over the years down to the divisions and authority and transparency. But when I need a signal or my constituents think there should be a signal, I go to my division. So I assume that in the division budgets, possibly the signalization is a big part of that.
yeah, it's part of the operations budget of the divisions. So, as someone who's worked there, it's not internal to our budget, but it's internal to their operations. So, all right. Getting back on track, Representative Belt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Getting back to the DMV, and I know in the Senate budget, and I'm sorry I haven't had a chance to really go over the House budget, but they had taken some funds from the IT when we're asking them to really work on it. Is that true, or do we fully fund what they need for doing what they're supposed to be doing for us? So.
Representative Belk, I can say that currently DMV receives $12 million recurring for IT modernization projects. Since 2013, they've received about 150 million. They've spent about 50 of that so far. And so, as you saw in the Senate proposal, it cuts out or claws back 65 million of that 100 million that they still have left. But even with that cut, they would still have $12 million going forward for IT modernization projects. Did you have a further question? You're like
Yeah.
going.
Okay, I will. Thank you. I will ask a further question. So some of the projects, we've got the pilot project with the kiosks that are in the Harris Teeters. Is that going to be expanded with this? Is it possible? Or is it going to continue?
I won't. I'll pause to say I'm obviously not speaking for DMV. They have presented in front of the Board of Transportation recently and said that there is an expansion of the kiosk program. Right now, there's 10 across the state, and they were hoping to get another 10, I believe, by the end of the year.
Thank you.
But I can find more information on that for you as well.
Good. Thank you.
Anyone else? The only other person I had in the queue was Chairman Shepherd, but he stepped out. Anybody any additional comments, concerns? Jay Adams.
This is kind of maybe a stupid question, but when a project is being considered, for instance, let's say the I-40, I-77 interchange design, that is outsourced to an agency to design it. Is that not correct?
What tag team this one?
Yeah,
You go
yeah.
first.
And if I'm, well, let me know. So a project like that, it is because it deals with the interstates, I-7740, it would have to be programmed into the STIP.
Right.
It would be identified as a statewide project, so we get
Right.
the first 40% of the funds, and then based upon the prioritization of that project, it would, be funded in its early phases. The first would be planning, and then we would move into kind of the acquisition of ROW as well as utilities. The design of that
That's what we get to.
is depending upon, it is contracted out under various different models. It can be design build, design bid build, depending on the acquisition of it. But those contracts are worked in consultation with the division that it occurs in, and they provide consultation on the contractor's design of the elements of that project.
Were the metropolitan planning organizations involved in that?
Absolutely, sir. They're part of the prioritization process of that project contained within.
Prioritization, but what about design?
I'm not sure if the MPO RPO would be part of the design as much as identifying the project and prioritization of it.
Okay.
I can tell you from personal experience working on some of those projects with the department that the stakeholders are brought to the table during the design process, during the build process. They get to evaluate the plans and the execution. They may not get to weigh in on how much it costs or anything like that, but they are made aware of the project.
I can tell you of my involvement in a particular project where the errors and emissions probably amount to over $100 million.
Representative Shepherd, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm sorry I had to step out. I'm dealing with a sort of a crisis situation at home now. But I want to say right up front, and I don't know, you may have already covered this. The House bill does not include any ferry tolling at all. Just wanted to make that clear to everybody. Thank you.
Representative Helfrich.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Another quick question about potential discrepancy between the Senate version and the House version. The Senate version calls for the creation of a board of motor vehicles. The House budget does not. Is that correct?
No. That is correct.
Thank you.
Didn't mean to steal your thunder. Got it. Representative Allen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for a comment. We didn't have our remarks in the beginning, but this staff has worked extraordinarily hard. I'm sure a lot of the staffs do, but we're very proud of what they've been doing, and it's really been remarkable this year. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Representative Bell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just, does this budget or what's in here now, does that change any of does it change the STIP and how it treats any light rail projects that are currently under?
There are no modifications to the STIP process in this.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Anyone anticipating amendments? I know you got one. You go ahead. 1, 2. The original plan was to recess at 10 and to come back at 11. Seem feasible for you guys to handle 2 amendments in that time period, maybe, depending on what they are. Right? That work for everybody? Any objection to that plan? All right, we'll stand at recess. Come back at 11.